Hey everyone, welcome to Adventures in Everyday Cooking, where every day can be an adventure in your kitchen. My name is Heather, and is it baking season yet? I need to know because I am ready to start baking all the treats, all the goodies, all the things. So to encourage the cooler weather to come, we're gonna make some raspberry streusel bars. Now, I don't know if you've ever had raspberry streusel bars before, or actually streusel bars in general. They are to die for. And what is amazing about this is you can make them apricot, you can make them strawberry, you can make them whatever you want. All you need is a little bit of jam or preserves or some pie filling. That's what we're gonna use today. And these bars are fantastic. So I'm making them today as my gift to the climate to say, hello, it's time to cool down. It's time for fall. It's time for all the baked goods. So are you ready for this adventure? It's gonna be delicious. I can't wait. Raspberry is my ultimate favorite fruit. Berry. It's a berry. That makes it a fruit too, right? Anyway, you ready for this adventure? So easy. You're gonna wanna make it. So get your oven preheated now, 300 degrees. Let's go. So what you're gonna need is half of a cup of butter, melted, 1/4 of a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, raspberry preserves and fresh raspberries, or you can use a cup of raspberry pie filling. For the streusel, you're gonna need half of a cup of old-fashioned oats, 1/3 of a cup of light brown sugar, 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 of a cup of butter, cold and cubed. And optionally, you can have vanilla icing for the topping, but we're gonna skip that today. So this recipe is super simple to throw together. It just takes a little bit of time in your oven, so plan accordingly. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our butter into, our melted butter into a bowl, along with our vanilla, our sugar, and our salt. And we are gonna give that a good mix. And then once it's all mixed up, we're gonna gradually add in our flour. This is 1 cup of all-purpose flour. You can use a cup for cup gluten-free flour if you'd like. It does work just fine, but today I'm just using regular Joe average flour because more than just me are gonna eat this. So you see how I'm making sure that the flour is fully incorporated before I move on? That is very important because you don't want lumps of flour in your, this is the crust that we're making first. So just mix it in slowly, otherwise, yeah, it won't be pleasant. And this is basically like a shortbread crust. Okay, so once you have what looks like shortbread cookie dough, because it is, we're going to put it into our pan. So let's just make sure all of our flour is mixed in. And then I am gonna use the enameled baker from Pampered Chef. You can also use a 9x9 square or an 8x8 square, but this will work just fine for us today. I'm going to press in a piece of parchment paper because I want to be able to lift it out later. So whatever pan you're going to use, just make sure it doesn't have, you know, it has about the same amount of area as an 8x8 or a 9x9. I'm confident that this has about the same area. We're just gonna press in our parchment as best we can, and we're gonna press this crust right into the bottom of this pan. So I'm just gonna plop it right down. And then you can either use the back of your spoon to do it, like this, or I'm going to just use my hands because I feel like I can get it kind of evenly distributed throughout my crust if I just use my hands. Okay, there we go. The crust is all ready to go. It's nice and even. I can feel that it's even because I used my hands. We're gonna cook it at 300 for 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and get that cooked. All right, now we are gonna add our brown sugar, our cinnamon, our flour, and our oats to the bowl. Now, what you're gonna wanna do here is just kind of incorporate everything together and make it a cohesive, like, little mess. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the butter, and you can do 2 things to get this butter inside of this mixture. You can use a couple forks and cut it right through the mixture, or you can just use your hands. Since I'm a fan of no dishes today, I'm gonna use my hands, and I'm gonna just work as quickly as possible. And basically, we are going to like do this with the butter and the mixture all together once all of the butter has been cut into cubes and put inside. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm literally going to take my fingers and some mix, and I'm going to squish the butter through my fingers and the mix, kind of like I'm, well, making puff pastry. If you've ever made puff pastry before, rough puff pastry, kind of like the same idea, where you're just kind of squishing it all together. So once you start to see it start to kind of come together roughly like this, we're about done. Just make sure that there's none of the, see this down here? We want to make sure that all of that has seen some of the butter. So make sure that all of it can be pressed into a little ball. Not that we want to keep it in a ball, but hopefully that's making sense. So as long as we see all of it, see how that's crumbly, and if I go like this, it kind of stays in a ball, that's perfect. And that's where we're gonna stop. And now I'm gonna go ahead and store this in the refrigerator until this is out and we're ready to go to the next step. So I'll see you in about 8 minutes. I'll be back. Okay, the crust is out, and now it's time to spread on our raspberry goo. Now, if you are using raspberry preserves or apricot preserves or whatever preserves, it's the same thing. We're just gonna spread it all over the place on a hot crust. So this is hot. So keep your gloves nearby because you may be tempted to touch it. I'm just saying. Not tempted, you just will forget that it's piping hot, and that'll be a problem. So leave your gloves nearby to remind you that this is a hot pan. It's so much easier to spread this with an offset spreader like I'm doing, because then you keep your hand away from that hot pan. All right, now we're gonna take our streusel that we made already, and we're going to sprinkle it over the top. And we're gonna use this whole thing, so don't be shy. So we're gonna sprinkle it everywhere. You want to make sure it covers the whole crust all over, because it will bake up through, don't worry. And there we go, 1 bowl for the washing up. That's it. All right, now do not touch this. Make sure your oven is now on 350, and we're gonna get it into the oven for 30 to 35 minutes, or until the raspberry preserves or goo is bubbling up and you can actually see it and it's like candy-like. It'll probably take 30 to 35 minutes. Probably more like 35. The top will be nice and browned and all of the butter will be melted. It will look delicious and you'll want to cut into it right away. Don't. I'll be back to show you what it's like whenever it comes out of the oven. And then unfortunately, we have to wait and let them cool for 2 hours. I know, sad face. But your 2 hours will be rewarded in deliciousness. So I'll be back with the finished product, but then I'll be back again. Well, you know, okay, I just said that. All right. All right, we're out of the oven, and check out the raspberry just peeking through and how brown those oats got. That is perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and sit it on a wire rack so it has a better chance to cool more quickly. We need to cool this down to room temperature before it can go into the refrigerator. Because you don't want to put it in hot, otherwise you run the risk of spoiling other foods around it. Once it's at room temperature, patience is a virtue. We have to get it into the refrigerator for about 2 hours, if not overnight. So that means we won't be able to taste it right away, but I promise I'll be back when it's ready to taste, and I'm going to taste it in front of you because I'm mean like that. But I'm going to show you what it should look like and why you need to make it so that we can welcome fall in with open arms and beautiful baked goods. Okay, welcome back. It is time to cut into these things. It's been about 3 hours. I can wait no longer. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little knife or palette knife or something, and I'm gonna run along the side of the edge where it was touching my pan, just because I didn't spray anything on it. So it's probably gonna stick a little bit. And then we're just gonna lift it out, hopefully. Aha, da-dun, da-da. There we go. All right, and now we are gonna cut into this, but oh my goodness, look at that gooiness over here. I'm probably gonna taste this edge just so that the rest of it can be beautiful for serving purposes. So I'm gonna cut the edges off here. Oh my goodness, it's so good. So I'm just running a sharp knife through it, cutting it into the size bars that you would prefer. And you definitely want to eat these cold. Don't eat them warm because they will fall apart. Cold is just the better way to eat them. I'll set that one aside for the moment. And let's make them like this big. You ready for the reveal? You ready? Oh, the goo. Oh, delicious. Look at that. Oh, can you even? These are so delicious. You will not even believe how delicious they are. If you like raspberries, you'll be like, this is my favorite dessert. The crust and the tart raspberries, yet they're sweet. And then the streusel topping. Seriously, this is heaven in a little bar. Oh, the fruit is so good. Like I mentioned, you can use apricot preserves, blueberry preserves, strawberry preserves, any kind of preserves you want to create your own version of this. And one that would be really, really good is if you did lemon blueberry preserves. Yeah, that would be epic. So yeah, you're just gonna want to cut them up and just be aware that if you serve them to a crowd, they will be gone. So definitely save one back for you to eat later after the party or whatever, because they're so good. If you're looking for fall to come, make yourself some raspberry streusel bars so that fall will be convinced that yes, it is time, because you need some of this in your life. It's so good. All right, you guys, I can stall no longer. My husband is sitting just off camera, ready to devour these. So I'm gonna bid you farewell. If you enjoyed that video, give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. I do videos several times a week, and I'm always looking for the next adventure. And let's bring on fall with the baked goods. So if you have a baked good recipe that is your favorite, I wanna hear about it, because I wanna make it, because I want fall to get here. And I think that if I start baking, fall will just come. It's inevitable that it's coming, but maybe it'll come faster. Do you know what I mean? All right, you guys. Well, I will see you on the next adventure. Bye.
You weren't kidding.
I'm not kidding about what I'm being.
Really good. Really good.
Oh, I know.